This is the new series we are starting from this January onwards, Building for India, where we'll be talking about our experiences over the many years building mobile apps, doing design work for Indian audience, understanding their needs, challenges, okay, and how, at least on the development, the development side, how building specifically for India will help you. The challenges. Okay. So, before starting talk, I would again like you to subscribe to the newsletter, where we'll post interesting blogs regarding what we have worked on. We'll have cheat sheets and a blog for this talk as well, so that you can share with your colleagues, friends, whoever will be interested in understanding how a journey from a Flutter and native apps to Flutter looks like. And we'll also include all our learnings, which we will help you build better apps. So with this, I'll start my talk. So the agenda for this talk is, we'll start with the introduction, in the sense, in this current scenario, is building native app relevant to your use case? If that's not the case, what is the problem with building native apps? If there are problems, how can a cross-platform framework can help you, and why did we choose Flutter to solve that need? Okay. And eventually how you migrate and what are the challenges are in migration, all the things about it. It gives you an entire journey in your migration bit. So with this, so yeah. So before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Farmaan. I'm one of the partner at Triveous. So as well said, we work on design development. We help teams build better apps. I have worked on multiple different verticals: finance, entertainment, education, helping multiple teams build great apps. And over the year, we started back in 2013, where we helped Khosla Lab build micro ATMs, like Soham has also said, which helped underbanked people to connect with the mainstream banking sector. We help in Paradigm to build their sales platform, to gamify the sales platform, basically. Uh, but the time doesn't permit me to go everything in detail. Just skip this part. So, okay. Coming to the main topic of the talk. Okay. In this current scenario, do you feel a native app is relevant for your use case? I'll talk about one of our clients. Um, this is a B2B client working on sales platform, who focus on building a product around sales, which will help the salesman sell whatever they're selling in an effective way. So as you know, the sales, if you are as a life insurance agent, will sell, it'll help you sell something better. So there were one of the client who used to have Android and iOS app. It was back pre-COVID time. Okay, the and what happened after COVID? Things changed a lot. Like everyone of us, like everyone's life has changed after COVID. Companies has also changed. Their requirement has changed. Um, Previously, the product was built where considering a face-to-face interaction with the customer, but then with the involvement of uh, these new use cases where you have to go online and all. So all of these use cases uh, forced our client to work on things like having a video conferencing to help sales agent, a lot of different features, which they promise to their client, the customer, the investors of the companies. Okay, but then they were not able to release on time. They promised that they will be able to do it, but they were really struggling to do all of this. So the main concern were how do they solve this problem? At the face of it, it looks like just as, there is scarcity of resource. There, yeah, I need to hire more to get things done. But then they reached out to us to help on executing this, whatever the new challenges they were facing and building. So we evaluated all the scenarios, what were the requirements were, but at the end of it, at the core of it, we found out multiple issues why they were not able to launch or release something on time, or they're not able to deliver. One of the key aspects where uh, there one of the key aspects were that they're focusing on building very good native apps. Okay, but then that was not giving, that didn't align to their business need. Okay, their business need wanted them to iterate really fast, since it was very different time. The pre-COVID was fairly different than post-COVID, or in mid-COVID, you can tell. But then you had to iterate very fast, and they were not able to do with this native Android, native iOS platform. I'm not saying they were bad; they were really good apps. Okay, they have been built really well, but the system of building a native app was not just helping them. They were not getting maximum return on investment. They were not able to go to market quickly. Um, they were not able to hire. It is one of the very big problem. We'll talk about this in detail in the later part of the presentation. And they're not able to scale the team. See, so like we got to know, okay, native apps are the problem. Okay, and so how do we understand, okay, how do we understood, okay, this native app is a problem for them. Okay, there are key aspects to a native app development which didn't align to their business need. Okay, one of them is code bases, separate code bases. Having separate code bases means you are writing double the code. Okay, and it's not just writing double the code. Okay, if you are having separate code, you mean that means you are writing double the documentation for your implementation. You are writing double the test for that. The entire development life cycle is becoming 2x. It's not just the code. If you think, okay, if I have an Android app, I have an iOS app, just having um, just having a separate code base, I would say it will not make a lot of difference, but actually it does make a lot of difference. You'll see later how it impacts a lot of business decision making. And another really challenging where there were minimal collaboration between teams. Okay, the client had Android engineers, they had iOS engineers, they had web engineers, backend and all. But each engineer, each platform engineer, were working in silos. We expect the engineers uh, to collaborate, because that's how you evolve. You collaborate, you talk to solve each other's problem. But then that was not happening. Okay, yeah, we know companies who optimize a lot on this collaboration bit, but they were not able to achieve that. Okay, and there was minimal knowledge transfer. And the third aspect of the high development effort, okay, is you had to maintain the software till its life cycle. Okay, like you all know, building software is not just one time thing. uh, it takes time. It takes just to release one version, you might take months or years even. Okay, but that's not the end. Okay, that's just the beginning of a software life cycle. You have to maintain it, you have to update it to keep it relevant. So my first the question it arrived, okay, can we do better than this? Okay, for our client, can we do something better than this? Another aspect was low productivity. Okay, I have been an Android engineer for quite a long time. I understand how much time it takes to build something. Okay. You might have heard, or you might have seen as well. You making a simple change on an app and waiting for minutes to see that feedback. I understand that. If you calculate that time, just assume if you are spending each day 5 to 10 minutes, 10 minutes, assume 10 minutes each day, you are spending 10 minutes waiting for a build to complete. On an year, you will be spending at least 10 working days just for waiting in an year. That's for one single engineer. Now think of a team where you have 50, 100 engineers. Okay, so you will be spending around 500 to 1000 working days just on waiting for bills to complete. Think in that way. Okay, and I'm not saying that the native development is bad or something, but there is a better. We feel we can do better than this. Okay, the third aspect of a native development is hiring. Okay, um, hiring in any in at least in tech has been really very challenging for this past 1 year or so. I have been hiring a lot. I understand the challenges, that this high attrition rate, and the engineer dropping out just before joining and all. I understand that. It has because of lot of the reason being is to say for post COVID, companies have started coming online, and it has created a different kind of businesses to go online, which were not the cases earlier, and a bunch of different companies starting to becoming uniform. And the funding, if you see for last year, it has never been such kind of funding. Okay, it has to come out in some way. Okay, all of these companies who are raising funding or coming online has to build products, they have to add features. Okay, but then in market, if you go, you will not see the number of good engineers increasing at the same rate the business requirements are increasing. And this problem in hiring is will definitely increase in this, at least in this year, I feel. So my question to all the engineer leaders are, okay, can we do, like, what can we do to address this? Okay, hiring. Okay, instead of looking hiring in one direction where we are hiring engineers, okay, we are looking to hire somebody in a different way. Let's say offering some say different kind of bonus at the beginning of joining and all. So can we do some approach the hiring in a different way as well? Can we look this the same thing? Okay, can we execute the same whatever way we were thinking with the same level of resources? Can we achieve that? Okay, if so, how can we do it? And all of this problem combined, okay, the problem of higher development effect, the low productivity, hiring, all of this combines ultimately increases your time you're spending on getting to market. And we all know time is money. You, if you are not on time, you are losing the game. So you are losing, just not on time, you are losing financially, you are not able to compete with your competitor, and you are not able to fulfill your promises which you have made to your user, the clients, investors, and all of this impacts your business. Okay, if you see this, the problem of native app development for our client. Okay, it might look okay, they are just building native app. What's the big deal there? Okay, if you see from this lens, the client was, they're not getting benefit for native app development. So we thought, okay, how can we solve this? Thought, okay, can cross-platform app help them? Okay, because cross-platform app basically target one very important problem. Okay, how to use your resources better. It's not about code sharing. Ultimately, it's how to use your resources better. So that's something our client was facing. They were not able. They had many Android engineers, iOS engineers. but then they were building for each platform. Okay. They were not able to use their resources better when they were needed it the most. So we looked at multiple different platforms based on various different criteria, like, okay, how this will help our the clients we have. Okay, how fast the clients tech team can learn a specific framework to get things started, how other team member, not just the existing Android or iOS developer can contribute, how other team members can contribute to the same code base. Just to, it might be for the time being, it might be for just to speed things up, but where you don't have to focus on hiring an Android or iOS for the timing, just to get that buffer of you're trying to hire. Okay, how can that help? Okay, what is the best possible framework that you would have used at that moment? So all of this was the criteria to judge if we want to choose one option or the other. Okay, so we first looked at I would say uh, I would say Ionic. Okay, is one of the being an native level. If you talk about Ionic, people will say ki, okay, this is bad, this will not work. Okay, but if you see, it has very good community support. It had really great developer tools. And if you want today, okay, you want to go to market, and if you have a web app, that's the fastest you should go. I know the experiences will not able to match, but that is the fastest way. And you can see from Play Store numbers, one of the few, I would say a lot of apps, top 500,000 apps are built on Ionic because they solve certain kind of problems. Okay, something similar to our clients use. But our client wanted a better performance than what we used, what we got on Ionic. We showed the demo to the client, and they didn't like the performance. The look and feel was not good. Okay, and then we move to another framework called Xamarin. Okay, yeah, we know it's built on .NET framework, right? Built by Microsoft, and yeah, so it supports multiple different platforms. But the core problem which we faced, okay, where in order to achieve something, okay, yeah, the core philosophy of a cross-platform app, cross-platform framework is to improve developer, reduce the development effect and increase the productivity. But then if you are trying to achieve something which is not trivial in Xamarin, it was extremely difficult. Okay, and more about, okay, more than that, okay, since it was not really popular like any other framework, it was really difficult to hire. If we cannot, since the client wanted to hire later, they will not be able to use Xamarin for their use case, so we had to discard that as well. So we look at Kotlin multi-platform as well. Okay, so it's quite different than all the other frameworks which we have tried out. There are similar, but framework, but in whatever we evaluated, it's being separate. Where the philosophy is the core part of the app, the entire thought process of Kotlin multi-platform is the majority of the code is on the business logic and not the UI, and they try to ensure that you can share, yeah, the business logic aspect of it as a code, and build your UI native to that platform itself. Let's say you are on iOS, you will build using Swift UI or whatever. Okay, um, we what we saw, you will get the best performance on Android. That is no doubt, because yeah, Android also uses Kotlin to build Android apps as well. But you will get the best performance. But when we evaluated that at that moment, um, iOS support was really catching up. It was, I would say, not when we evaluated, that was not at a production level. And one of the issues which we also had with Kotlin multi-platform was that our client had app which was really very UI heavy. It has really game effects and all. So writing that for two different platforms would have been really challenging. It would not have solved the problems which we were trying to solve. Yeah. The next one is React Native. Okay. I'd say one of the most popular cross-platform framework to build yeah, and the core concept is simple. You build your apps using, you write your components using JavaScript, and ultimately it will create a native use underlying it will use the native components. And again, the value proposition what it brings is really great. It has great community support, developer experience is good, you get immediate feedback for your changes. Like, you don't have to wait for a lot of time to get your feedback. It had also support, it was really popular, and made by Facebook. Okay, and if you have, let's say, a React developer in your team, they can easily pick up React Native. So all of those were very good value proposition for our client. But again, the one thing which it lacked was performance. We demoed an equivalent POC for the native app, and the client realized, okay, the performance is not at that level. It is just not feeling yeah, good enough. Okay, and finally, okay, in the title you might have already known that we have moved to Flutter, but then I'll talk about the decision which exactly say not exactly which helped us decide in direction of Flutter. I'll give I would say, I'll tell, there's no one reason why we have moved to Flutter. Okay, it's kind of balance between I would say the performance bit and the value proposition of uh, time and money and the effort it will bring to us. Okay, when we evaluated it, it was equally competitive to React Native. Okay, um, but it was a matter of choosing things which work for our client. Okay. Okay. So one of the very important value proposition is having a single code base. This is true for almost all the frameworks we have, all the cross promises that you'll reduce the code. Okay, same is the case for Flutter. You could have used any of the framework, you would have achieved something similar results. Okay, but the effort it takes, okay, say effort by 60%. Okay, but then in order to achieve that, okay, and to get to that point where you uh, are getting that benefit, it's really high. I can give an example. Like I was talking about Xamarin. Okay, you can have single code base, but the problem here is, in order to achieve that, okay, you'll not that you'll not achieve the 60% um, reduce in code size, and the overall effort, it does not decreases to 60%. Okay, same is the case for Kotlin multiplatform and Ionic, and yeah, Ionic had different issues, but yeah, the problem is the same. What level of optimization or benefit it can bring you. So we found out that, okay, if you write Flutter code, it will bring you 60% optimization. And so you can read about this is something similar to what even Google Pay, when they migrated their native app to Flutter, they got something similar results. Okay. Another aspect is the high productivity. Uh, this was Flutter was solving Flutter or any of the solve the same problem of, like I said, development effect. Like high, the problem was the high development effect. Um, here it was trying to increase the productivity. Okay, if you have like me being a Android engineer for a quite long time, was to build a UI on Android. Okay, it's really performant. Okay, but the problem is it's the feedback loop is really slow. Okay, like I said, you have to wait a lot of a lot of time to get something out. Yeah, if you use Flutter, you'll feel, or Flutter, not even Flutter, React Native as well. You'll get that magic. Okay, you making a changes, you getting instant feedback. Okay, and one another aspect, okay, where we generally ignore a lot of things when evaluating React Native Flutter, it's basically the level of debugging you can achieve with Flutter and all. So it comes with a lot of tooling itself from which is internally developed by the team itself, not by a third party company. Okay, and they really focus on the performance aspect of it, the network aspect, of layout aspect. You'll get the best in any cross platform apart from say web and all, definitely the best experience in debugging something. Yeah. And ultimately, the problem of hiring. Okay, it becomes simpler. Okay, how you would ask. The problem here is the if we were doing same thing 2x times, that not in just developer role. Okay, at multiple different, be it QA, you had to have multiple QAs for each one for Android or iOS, whatever. The here you are reducing all those resources to basically you're sharing distributing the resource effort to all the members, where each developer can contribute to the main app, and achieve the larger goal of releasing the product to the customer. Okay, they on very minimal occasion they have to worry about say, Android, iOS. Yeah, they will be a lot of scenarios there where they have to focus very specific on specific platform, but there will those will not be an ideal cases in any of the groups, at least on Android and React Native, what we have seen. Okay, and another key aspect. Okay, the companies who generally are raising a lot of money. Okay, or we have a really big code bases. Okay, they tend to focus on native app developers. Okay, because their code base itself is native. So it was really easier for our client to hire an overall engineer, a good engineer. Doesn't matter if they are Android or iOS. They're good engineers, might have done web, and they could easily train them and to work on Flutter. It was really easy for anybody to get started with Flutter. Okay, and ultimately the problem was minimizing the cost and time. Okay, it reduced the overall time, like the development effort was reduced. Picking up any cross platform would have done it. Okay, reducing the time to market. Yeah, all the cross platform promise that ultimately they would have achieved the same thing. Okay, um, and then we were able to use efficiently use the resources. Okay, but the one aspect where I would I would have preferred I'll say React. There would always be a question. Okay, that which is better, React Native or not? Like I don't know. It's just matter of choice or your team's capability. If you feel your team is good in JS and your performance is not that a big deal for you, you can definitely go with React Native. But for our use case where the client needed, they could have easily trained anybody to on Flutter, and they choose doing Flutter. So all of this after, okay, you might have a question. Okay, yeah, Flutter sounds interesting, or yeah, or yeah, any of the cross platform sounds interesting, but will it work for your app or not? So, answer is again it depends. Okay, it depends on what you are aiming at. um, if you can, if your app is really performance critical, okay, and performance is your one of the top priorities in your list, okay, I would avoid like moving to any cross platform app, because it won't be able to match the performance you'll get from Unity Web. Like whatever whatever you do, it'll not be able to match basically. Another thing is when your team, okay, ultimately team has to migrate or choose Flutter, okay. The team needs to have that enough bandwidth so they can experiment with Flutter, okay. So the reason I'm telling experiment, because the native Android iOS team have for years have done things in a certain way. Okay, they need to have enough time to try out the platform. Each of the team member needs to have enough time to. If that's not the case, I would recommend not to um, mm, choose Flutter. And one another use case is where you already have an app, be it an Android, iOS. Let's assume you have an iOS app, um, and you're thinking, okay, should I migrate or not? Okay, I'll ask this one thing: if you never have to build an app in any other platform, I'd recommend not to choose any cross-platform framework. But if we choose, okay, that won't be an issue in the sense that, and if and performance is not a very key criteria, it won't be an issue. Um, the reason being is ultimately you will it will be faster than I would say a native, because it just simplifies a lot of things which has been done in a specific way. You can do something like you can pick up say Jetpack Compose on Android, something like that as well. That will also work for you. But yeah, if you have to ask a recommendation, I would not ask you to do choose Flutter if you are just building for one platform. Okay, and so now all of yeah, after all of this, okay, talking about Flutter, should we do it or not? The main question arises: how to migrate. This is because ultimately the title of the talk is how to do it. Okay. So before telling any strategy upfront, okay, I'll not go into very detail of how to do migration in this talk, because we'll not have enough time to for that. So we'll have that in our next talk. So please subscribe to our newsletter. You'll receive an update in few weeks from now, where you'll get to understand what you will get out of that talk, where you'll understand the nuances, very detailed nuances of how companies do migration, how we have been previously done migrations. But just to give a gist here, okay, there are common three ways people do it. One is what we call as add to app, uh, where team picks up very one common functionality. Let's say you can think like you can think like an let's say onboarding, okay, which is common. The UI and feel looks like common. It's not really complex. What you can do is you can build that in Flutter, and rest of the apps still remains native Android or iOS. That's one thing where you are iterating on feature just by trying it out. Okay. Then another is basically a rewrite with parallel native changes. This is where you are just one in one line you are you're you're still developing your native app, and parallelly you are rewriting that native same native app to Flutter. One of the key, yeah, you'll see this being done by Google Pay, where this will be in my newsletter. We'll get a link how they have done and all. I'll share the link for that as well in the newsletter. Another thing is where you rewrite from scratch. Okay, you just support your existing app with minor bug fixes and all, only the bug fixes, and parallelly you are writing the entire app from scratch. Nuances for each of the strategy, and each of strategy depend upon what kind of team you have, um, what is the structure of your team, what are your financial and what are your product backlog. If you have really long product backlog, you might choose one or the other. There are a lot of nuances of when to choose what, and which will fit good in some specific scenarios. That will definitely talk in our discuss more on our next talk. Cool. And yeah, we'll just talk about a bit of challenges in migration in this talk, where people will see a lot of um, developer have a lot of misconception around migrations, specifically where people think, okay, migration is just about moving one code from another. But just think it in this way: you have an Android team, you have an iOS team, each working in silos, with their own release cycle and all. Now, once you migrated their code base, you will most likely want the existing team to still build the same app. Now they are working in a single code base, trying to achieve the same thing which they had done earlier. It's not just about changing the code. Is now your team structure has itself has changed, where they are collaborating better just because they're working on same thing. It's yeah, it I would say one of the key uh, thing where you can bring merge teams. It simplifies that part as well. Another is people think, okay, there is one silver bullet for migration. There is nothing such. Okay, like I said, each of them, each of the strategy I've talked about depends upon migration and different use cases. It caters to different clients' needs and all. Okay, so another challenge, really important challenge, is the entry for existing native team is really high, where the native developer has to unlearn things. Okay, what do you mean by that? Things like they might have built UI in a specific way. They have different naming things and naming structure. The UI, how they build it's entirely different. Okay, they have to now unlearn that and pick up in a pick up doing the same thing. Okay, building the same UI in a different way. Okay, that's what I meant by unlearning things. Okay, um, and one other important thing is we have to realize the team members won't be productive from day one if we have a really what's that, long product backlog and we want to release immediately. um, and and if you have to see, if there's you can have some buffer around. Okay, we can wait for 15, 20, 30 days, and then see how things will improve. Then that will be a good situation. But if you expect a team member to be productive from day one, it will be really it won't be right to right expectation to set. Another challenge would be there would be a need for a support team. Okay, what do you mean by support team? Okay, um, where the main team, let's say whatever strategies you find out to migrate, the support team will help you in doing that migration. They might define the best practices. They might define how to do certain thing which you have done in say native Android iOS, and do something similar on Flutter. So writing the documentations, re-architecturing the existing code base is and to Flutter. So a lot of different entry barriers are there for existing if you're migrating from a native team. Okay. Yeah, another really important aspect we forget when we think of migration is upscaling. Okay, yeah, it's the developer who has been working. They had a different set of thought process of doing things. Okay, now like I said, they have to unlearn and relearn new different topics. One example I can just give you. Okay, like building UIs on native apps. They have been built in the developers are used to build UI in imperative fashion. The codes are written in imperative fashion. Here, if you pick up any in all of these framework what I talked about, let's say Ionic or React Native or Flutter, they work in a different paradigm. They work in what we call as reactive programming paradigm. Okay, now you have to learn that concept as well. Okay, you have to see you it's just not about migrating code. You have to learn constantly, pick up new topics, and you should be able to do it faster. Okay, and one another important aspect is transferring your learning. Okay, let's say you have learned something on native Android. Okay, and you can transfer the same knowledge to say Flutter. Okay, that's how you learn really quickly. If you can do it better, okay, if the team can do it in a better way, the more likely is um, they will face a lot of hurdles in learning actually. So these were all about the challenges aspect of migration, and so the key takeaway of how we have done migration, the challenges you can see, there are key takeaways. In certain scenarios, native app don't give you that best return on investment. Okay, and starting an app. Okay, now let's say you have trying to build a new app. Building choosing a native app would be an exception only if you have a very specific scenario you have to build, which would not be good for um, a cross-platform app. uh, Only choose native app in those scenarios. Apart from that, pick whatever cross-platform scenario cross-platform framework works for you. Another is, like I said, there's no silver bullet for migration from native to Flutter. It again depends upon multiple situations, which I'll talk about in detail in my next talk. Yeah. So hope this has given you a some picture of how migration looks like, what are the challenges, why somebody should do it, in what circumstances it can help, and when it will not help you. Okay, all of this, I hope if you need to do migration, you'll attend my next talk, and yeah, where you'll get to learn the strategy you can which will help you decide how to pick migration. So yeah, this I conclude my talk, and yeah. So if you want to reach out to me, you can hit me on my email. You can connect on LinkedIn, Twitter if you want.